All right. Well, it is 3:05, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Sarah Heineken, and I am an advisor in the cognitive science major. Thank you all so much for coming. We're here to talk today about study abroad and other global opportunities for CogSci and linguistic students. We're going to kick it off with a presentation from CGIS by presenters Callie Rouse, a program advisor from CGIS, as well as Hope, their work study student. And then I'll be presenting on some Ling and CogSci specific info, and then we'll also have a short presentation from Matt Meltzer about internships abroad. So I'll let Callie get us started.
Alrighty. Okay, so I'm Callie Rouse. I am one of the advisors at CGIS. I work with programs throughout Europe and as well as specifically with our STEM programming. And so I'm going to talk you through the basics of our programming and all that jazz. And then Hope is going to chat with you guys specifically about the DIS program, which tends to be pretty popular with CogSci students. And yeah. And then, also, you guys are going to get to see some of the particular ones that are recommended to students as well afterward. Okay, so to get us started, so what is CGIS? So we are the Center for Global Intercultural Study, more often called CGIS, and we work with all sorts of undergraduate students here at We have over 115 programs in 45 plus countries on every continent but Antarctica. And we have programming in English as well as in local languages if you're looking to do local language study as well. And you can go abroad as early as your first summer at and go multiple times. You can also, go multiple times. And then we mostly serve LSA students, but we also work with other students as well. So why study abroad? So one thing, and then she'll discuss this in more depth later, Sarah will. Satisfying major and minor and distribution requirements is something you can absolutely get done while abroad. You can gain a new perspective on your academic area, studying with international faculty, developing independence, especially if you do our longer term programs, gain skills to approach situations in different cultural frameworks, think critically about a bunch of different problems you will experience abroad because you will run into problems, but you will be able to work through it. Voice your resiliency, make meaningful lifetime impacts and friendships, and become a better global citizenship. So what program makes sense for you? So we kind of have this chart that talks about things to be considering when studying abroad. So things like degree requirements, which we'll talk more about today, but other things as well as professional goals. Are you wanting to do study or do your career abroad? On-site support, what kind of environment are you looking for while abroad? What fits your schedule? Are you really busy during the academic year? Does it only work in the summertime to go abroad? The cost of the program is, of course, very important, as well as language and identity. Do you want to be learning in a foreign language? Do you want to be speaking in it and going to an English-speaking country? Do you have to have identity factors that you need to be considering before you decide where exactly you want to go abroad? And then, so as I mentioned, if you are interested in going to a country where you're able to speak or do your programming in English, you do not have to speak another language to do it. So we have a whole slew of programs from Argentina to Czechia to Madagascar to Thailand, where you can do your programming in those countries without having to speak those languages. And then we also have English-speaking countries as well. If you are more comfortable in that setting, we have the more traditional ones. These ones kind of on this side, but also like Singapore, South Africa, and Turks and Caicos are also English-speaking locations. Experiential learning. So we have a lot of different experiential learning opportunities. So we kind of list out a couple of these. I don't need to go through all of them. But we have a bunch of programs that are not only based around classroom learning, it's also doing research projects, working in a lab, being able to intern with local organizations and things like that. And you can do these both in the academic year and in the summertime. And identity considerations, so it's important to be thinking about personal identity considerations that are important to you. For example, LGBTQ rights. Do you want to go to a place that you can be out and be comfortable in being out in that country? That might kind of narrow down exactly where you want to go. Do you want to go someplace where there's a lot of religious diversity, and so you're going to be able to feel comfortable practicing your religion in this country? Gender roles and race and ethnicities are all also really important things to consider as well. And we have multiple resources that we have linked here. And if you guys sign up to the Swedish newsletter in the back, I can send this to you as well. So you guys can access all these resources as well as meeting with an advisor about these topics. So for summer programming, we have a variety of different offerings available. So first off, we have the GCCs. These are programs where you start in the winter term by taking a course here, and then you extend for 3 to 4 weeks into doing the program abroad. This is one of our most cost-effective programs and is a really good first-time experience abroad as well. Then we have the GIEU program, which is an experiential learning program. And students are able to go into under-resourced communities and actually work with the other participants of the program prior to departure, actually talking through what it means to go into those communities and how to ethically do so and other things of that nature. And then you're able to actually go into the communities and work alongside locals on locally resourced projects. And then we have language requirements. So if you guys do have language requirements you have to fulfill, know that we have, you can complete your 4th semester or your 3rd and 4th semester of your language abroad in Spanish, French, and Italian. And we also have a whole slew of other spring-summer programming that ranges from 3 weeks in length to 10 or 12 weeks in length. With a whole slew of different programming available. And then, of course, we have semester and academic year programming. These are really run the gamut of the offerings. These are even more broad in the level of coursework that you're able to do because many of them are when you're directly studying at another university. And these are kind of some examples of the way other various students have been able to do things abroad. Awesome. So how can we get you there? How can we make this possible for you? So first of all, we have financial aid. Students can use the financial aid that they receive here at the university toward their time abroad. You can use, you can have a conversation with the financial aid office and actually create an estimate with them of how much of your aid that you get here that can you be using abroad, and think about the different options that might make the most sense for you. For example, if you're an in-state student, maybe an exchange program where you pay in-state tuition to go abroad is going to be best for you, whereas maybe if you're not a state student, doing a program where you do a program fee instead of paying is actually going to be much more affordable for you than staying here at Michigan. So a whole variety of different conversations we recommend to have with the financial aid team. And there are a variety of different funding sources as well available, including funding from CogSci. They have funding for you guys as well, which I'm sure Sarah will mention. And eligibility does depend on your program, so it's unique to all different students. And yeah, like I said, you can do an estimate with financial aid. And then we have the LSA Study Abroad Scholarship. So all LSA students who are eligible for financial aid are eligible for the LSA Study Abroad Scholarship. And 95% of eligible students receive between $1,000 to $10,000, depending on the program costs and financial need. Our longer term programs are going to be in that higher end of the budget. Our higher end of the amount with our other programs are going to be a little bit on the lower end. And you do have to be taking at least full term. This is the same with financial aid. You have to be at least taking a full term, which is 12 credits in fall and winter and 6 credits in the spring and summer to be eligible. But yeah, that's something that's really great, and we have more links for you there to meet specifically with scholarships as well. And then we have a whole page on our website of additional scholarships if this isn't applicable to you. And so what's next? So if you are interested in studying abroad, you can start by looking at a CGIS programming. We have a catalog that kind of starts talking about that. But you can also look on our website and browse by region, by major, and other things like that. And then read through the program descriptions. You can also, if you're looking between a couple of different programs, you can meet with a CGIS advisor like myself, and we can talk through what makes sense for you based on your particular circumstances. And then you would start an application in Compass, where you can actually find even more detailed information about your program as well. And these are our standard deadlines. So spring summer has passed for this upcoming spring and summer, but fall academic year is coming up on March 1, and then winter, the standard deadline is September 15, with some a little bit earlier than that. Yeah. Some things to keep in mind when applying for a program. So the application requirements are going to vary by the program, and we indicate that information when you're looking through the program brochure. Some programs are going to require academic recommendations, personal statements, have minimum GPA requirements, and other application requirements. For example, if you want to do our Dublin Summer Internship Program, you have to apply, or you have to provide your resume as well, whereas majority of our programs, that's not going to be a requirement. Tips, it is a good idea, especially in like the field that you're interested in going to, getting to know your professors, the GSIs, and research supervisors who can give you a good recommendation, and utilizing the peer consultants for writing when helping you write essays for your applications. And we do not accept physical transcripts for the most part. We do our things all electronically, so you don't have to worry about getting your transcripts into us most of the time. And in response to COVID, just some quick notes on that. The majority of our programming has returned to normal. The only two locations we don't have active programming in is Russia, not due to COVID, for other reasons, and China, which is related to COVID. And we do have some particular restrictions in place based on certain countries that is listed at that link. But other related information can be found on our website. And just a general note, we follow the UN mandate on the COVID vaccine, but we do have particular programs that we do have to mandate without exceptions that you are fully vaccinated due to on-site requirements. And yeah, we continue to closely monitor and see if there's any changes and alert students if there are. And yeah, so we can help you as you're looking forward. We can help you explore programs, navigating the application process. We do pre-departure orientations. I'm in the process of preparing to orient our upcoming spring and summer students. We do vetting for our programs on health and safety matters, and we provide health insurance. And we have advisors and a health and safety team, and we do grade processing. And speaking on a related note, grades and credit. So LSA students receive in-residence credit for all CGIS programs. So that means that classes taken abroad are automatically applied towards your GPA, and students have the option to take classes pass-fail if they are not for your major and minor, just like here. And students who wish to fulfill college requirements just need to speak with your academic advisors. Major and minor, you want to speak with your major and minor, whereas general distribution requirements, you just speak to your general advisor regarding those. And then non-LSA students have to do their own thing. And this is kind of a pretty little diagram, basically, of how this all works. Essentially, we recommend working with your advisors, both general and major minor, throughout the process. as we also work with you to review your applications and admit you to programs. And yeah, that's that. Any questions for me? If not, uh, yeah. Oh yes. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And I will let Hope introduce herself, but she is one of our peer advisors. We have 5 peer advisors who work with us, and they're really helpful because they've all studied abroad, and they are also a resource to students if you're considering studying abroad. But I will advance back to your slide. Awesome. There you go.
So, I'm Hope, and I studied abroad with DIS. There are multiple sessions you can go on, or semesters. It's very widely known and accepted. There's a few fun facts about DIS. One of the things are, so in Sweden, I took forensic psychology, so I got to work with men who have been sexually assaulted because there are a low volume of them and people tend to look over them and they don't look at how they may have been affected in the past. I also got to explore what differences between the United States, Europe, Scandinavia, and Sweden. It was very helpful to see different perspectives as I am a sociology major, so I'm really into finding out about different societies. So I thought this was very helpful. Some core things about Sweden is if you do DIS, they take you to go get ice cream. They'll take you out for food, sometimes other things that we can't say in the US till you're 21. But this is me. It's 3 in the morning, 3:30 a.m. in Sweden. The sun goes down, but it looks like our desk. So think about, oh, it's dark, and that's at 1 in the morning, and then 2 hours later, the sun rises again. It doesn't really set, and I thought that was a really cool experience. And I also got to know my professor really well, and she taught in China, Sweden, France, and Denmark, and having those connections and building those bonds I thought was really important. And without DIS, I wouldn't have been able to have the chance to meet her. When we talk about my session 2 and 3, the first session was mainly spring, but then the rest were session 2 and 3 of summer. The first one was 3 credits. The second session is 3 credits, and the third session is 4 credits. And I took prostitution and the sex trade and European genocide. So these were helpful classes because I'm also into politics, and to learn what is normal in other countries versus what is not normal to us because we are raised with this stigmatization where we are kept in a box. But to learn from other nations, it's really insightful because we're not able to get the full view. However, we do go on trips. So DIS also sent me to Amsterdam, so the Netherlands. In Amsterdam, there is the red light district. It is also known for window girls, so it's people who sell themselves as if they're in a catalog, but there's multiple rules and regulations, and they're watched closely by the government to make sure everyone's safe and no one's getting hurt. And that is unthinkable here because we'd be arrested. That's not a thing. It was really cool. Plus, in Amsterdam, they have the best crepes ever. I've been to France, crepes, go to Amsterdam. Now, talking about European genocide, this was a class just to help me understand things more about how someone could think the way they did. not justifying it, but trying to see if there was any traumatization, where we could look at, and how we could try to move on and help those who might still be affected because of long-term family members. It was insightful just to have that idea. Not only was I in Denmark for this part, they also sent me to Poland. So I was in multiple graveyards and at Auschwitz. So we got to go in deep, show our condolences, and understand the past and how it has affected people, and read letters to try to see an emotional bond and connection. And DIS is one of the programs that we offer that allow us to be sent away for another week in a different country. And it also allows you to bond deeper with everyone else. Also, speaking about my professors, my prostitution and sex trade professor, she used to work at Stanford. And as someone who likes to build connections, I'm thinking Stanford Law. So here's your chance to build connections with everyone and able to reach out. So always keep that in mind, because the nicer we are, the best we are, the more real we are, we can make connections. Also, that is a crepe in Denmark. That is super good too. And there are amusement parks and other fun things to do that aren't always so serious. Your professors might take you out, like I said, but not in a weird way, just to get to know you guys. So, thank you.
And this is one of our programs that is offered year-round. So whenever it would work for you. And like Hope mentioned, there is a unique element for their study tours. So students are able to do like week-long, or actually it can be like a week and then like a half week in the academic year that you're able to do study tours in other locations. And this one also, for any of you guys who are on the computer science track, this is one of our few ones that also has computer science coursework as well, that I believe has been approved back from the East Department. So yeah, it's a good program.
Okay, let's give a round of applause for Callie and Hope. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentations. All right, so I'm just curious, quick show of hands, who here is from CogSci? Who here is from linguistics? A few brave souls from linguistics. Okay, thank you for coming. Well, now we're going to get into some departmental specific information. I'm just going to preface this with we're building up the linguistics offerings more, so we do have plenty of information for you, but it's a little bit more of a work in progress. CogSci, we have a little bit more established track record with study abroad. So just kind of recapping some of the reasons that Callie has already cited to go abroad. Again, you can work on distribution and college-wide requirements such as the language requirement, or humanities or social science or creative expression credit. Forge global connections, be they academic, professional, or personal. I did 3 separate full academic years in Germany, plus research stints and business language courses in Germany in the summers. And I have friends that I've known now going on like 12, 13 years, all the way back from 2010 when I did an extra year of high school. So these are connections that can and will last a lifetime. Increase your cross-cultural awareness and adding, different lenses to your studies and your approach to life. And getting to work with global practitioners in the field of CogSci and linguistics. It's always really fascinating to see what's happening in your field in another country. So, so I want to give some key tips. Some of these apply specifically to CogSci majors, some to linguistics majors. The first key tip I would give, so who here, can I have a show of hands, is anyone here first year? Sophomore? Third year? Fourth years? I didn't think so. Okay, good. So for our second and probably for our third years, this tip is could or could not be helpful, but especially for our first years, hang on to your distribution. Try, if you're an undeclared major, or you're like, I think I want to get started on the major, do it, like especially your sophomore year. You want to make good progress in the major because the distribution credits that go towards like your general U of M requirements are the easiest to bring back. So hang on to those. My recommendation is always hang on to humanities credits wherever you can. They're some of the ones that we see transfer back most easily. Now your general advisor, so Noonan or honors or the RC, still has like the purview over which classes are going to transfer back to fulfill those, but that's a good piece of general advice that I can give you. For CogSci majors, hold on to your off-track electives as much as possible. So to recap the CogSci major requirements, right, there's CogSci 200. Is anyone in CogSci 200 right now? Okay, all right. Some of you have been getting my emails. Great. So you're in CogSci 200 right now. That's a gateway prerequisite. Then you have 3 required classes or 3 core classes and 6 electives. A minimum of 4 electives must be taken from your home track. But up to 2 can come from different tracks because we're always getting folks who are saying, oh, I want to take that one class off the language track or the decision track. Hold on to those off-track electives because sometimes you'll want to go to a location and there's not a ton of CogSci courses available. This seems to be the case, unfortunately, in like Spain and Italy, 2 very popular destinations where it's like 2 CogSci classes will be available, but they're both on the philosophy track and you happen to be on the computation track or something. So hang on to those off-track electives, come to advising, make sure you know how your electives are fulfilling your requirements, and that's some of the best advice I can give you. And then for our Ling majors and minors, just hold on to your electives. Your electives work a little bit different, but in particular, those additional electives, you're gonna wanna hang on to those. Ling is a little bit more strict in terms of evaluating coursework to transfer back, and that's probably the category that's most likely to come back. So those would be my key tips for you all. So now we're going to get a little bit into the course approval process because some people find this really overwhelming. Callie, do you mind holding up that table I made? So if you have any questions about this, so I have a little handy table. Anything that's in yellow that says CogSci, you can say for Ling for your Ling advisor, or you can come find me. Thank you so much. So you can grab that table afterwards. But the course approval process, what we're doing in CogSci and linguistics is specifically only for major or minor credit. So any other questions about your general classes, things like that, for distribution, you're going to want to go to your general advisor. But if it's anything about major credit, what's coming back, that's when you come to us, okay? So for CogSci, we have a table called the Previously Petitioned Study Abroad table. It's on our website. I can get you the link in a little bit. You might have seen it already. We keep running tabs on pre-approved courses. So these are classes that either we found or previous students have submitted for CogSci credit. If they are in green and the approval date is less than 3 years old, then that class, if it appears on your transcript, once you come back, we will be able to issue an exception, and that course can count towards your CogSci requirements for the tracks that is indicated there. If the approval date is older than 3 years, you will need to re-petition the class, but the chances are much higher that'll get approved. And so long as like the professor hasn't changed too much or there's not, an extreme change in the syllabus, it's very likely to get approved. And if the course is listed in, red and it's not approved, then that answers the questions for you. And if this class is not on the table, it doesn't mean you can't take it. It just means it hasn't been evaluated for CogSci credit specifically. One thing to know is classes don't have, and this is the same for linguistics and for CogSci. So let's say you find a class and it has over 50% CogSci content. That's usually what we're looking for. Linguistics, I think their threshold might be a little bit higher. They take a little bit closer look at the amount of linguistics specific coursework there. But it doesn't match up with like Psych 240 or it doesn't match up with Phil 340. That's okay. The class doesn't have to be the equivalent of a class on our curriculum so long as it has sufficient CogSci content. And we'll tell you, does this count as a core class? Does it count as an elective? And like 95% of the time it counts as an elective, okay? So we'll definitely have time for questions. Any urgent questions about this before I move on to like Ling? Okay, we'll use that fun cube in a little bit for more questions. For linguistics, for every class, because we don't have a pre-approved class system yet, we're hoping to develop one, but we don't have a pre-approval table. Anything that you want to have considered for linguistics, major or minor credit, you will need to petition. There's again a form on the website. Students may receive credit for only one of Ling 313, 315, and 316. So if you want to take one of those classes abroad, if it's being offered, you will have to petition it, and you will only be allowed to take credit for up to one of those, especially for our Ling majors who have to take all three, okay? And then most often, if your course is approved, it's going to be approved for electives or additional coursework. There's a couple subcategories. There's also, spoiler alert, some changes coming to the Ling curriculum to make things simpler and nicer coming in fall. You'll hear about that more, I'm sure. But basically, you're going to be looking for elective credits. So, and again, it doesn't have to specifically be like Ling 370 language and discrimination. It just has to have sufficient linguistic content. Okay. And the linguistic department will also indicate if there's limitations, like you can take this class, but you can't take like Ling 370 here at U of M because they're too similar. So they'll, fill you in on that. And if you're unsure, and key documentation that you'll need, and this applies to, the first thing applies to both CogSci and Ling majors, a syllabus. If you want full consideration for a course petition, you will need a syllabus. Sometimes these syllabi are not available until you get there, and I know that can be really frustrating because you're stressing, you're in a new country, you're jet lagged, and you're like, I gotta get my course selections down. Try not to panic too much. You can petition classes mid-experience. So if there's another class when you come to register and you're like, oh, I think this looks better, and you want to submit a course petition, that's fine. Sometimes all that's available is a description. You can still submit that, but we probably will say we need more information before we give a final ruling. And then for linguistics, they're also probably going to ask eventually upon your return to see some homework assignments and readings. So just be sure to hang on to all those materials that you collect while you're abroad, digitally or otherwise. Okay? So now we're going to get into some course recommendations. I'm trying to clip along here because I want to make sure we get to Matt Meltzer from Sage Core. But we have some program recommendations, and we just have a few disclaimers. So the programs that we choose to highlight or sort of present to you are based on our alumni feedback, promising coursework for linguistic students, pre-approved coursework for CogSci students, and diversity in locations around the world. We're trying to provide you with, an ample sampling of what there is available at CGIS. You're not limited to any of these programs. If you find coursework that's appropriate in a different program that isn't listed on the next slide, you're more than welcome to petition coursework from there, but these are sort of the ones that we recommend to folks who are really going to go for, pursuing CogSci or linguistics coursework. And there's a bit of nuance in that. There's some programs here that do have a couple CogSci, or aren't here on the slides, that do have some CogSci courses, but I don't recommend them fully just because they have a limited number. So don't feel limited by this. It's up to you to do the research to find a program that fits your needs. And also, unfortunately, there's some things we don't have control over. So we don't have control over how often courses are offered at international institutions. We can't guarantee that a class that you really like is going to be offered in the semester that you're there. We can't control course prerequisites at the international institution or waitlist policies, and then we can't guarantee what the assessment type or the course difficulty will be. So it's up to you to do your research, ask around, talk to our wonderful colleagues at CGIS, to your program coordinator. Just make sure that you're making a decision that's right for you. So we have this whole list here. So some of the programs that I want to highlight again is DIS Copenhagen. I'm so glad that we had a representative who's been there today. Although Hope did sociology, DIS Copenhagen is a really, really, really great program for CogSci students. It's offered year-round. We actually have a current peer facilitator, Jackson Strauss, who couldn't be here today. I was going to ask him to present, who's actually gone for a summer session and successfully transferred back at CogSci elective. And he still holds regular office hours, so if you ever want to meet with him, Jackson, our peer facilitator, you can find him on our website. We have a lot of people for CogSci going to London. If you're interested in a year-long program, Waseda University actually is pretty good for, I forgot to highlight it, the ones with the 1 star are ones that are great for double majors. So if anyone's here planning to double major with linguistics, those are really optimal programs. And then there's a lot of promising coursework, again, at a lot of the colleges in London and Australia. So this is a good sampling, and we have a lot of alumni from CogSci who've gone to all of the programs here. And then I just wanted to give a quick note about Pompeu Fabra, Barcelona, and University of Amsterdam. These programs I do recommend because there is more and more coursework that we're finding at Barcelona, and there's a lot at Amsterdam. However, University of Amsterdam has some structural stuff with their program that only allows you to take 1 class through the University of Amsterdam. They're administered by, I think it's CIEE. Thank you, Callie. So that's like a third-party program that does that partners with U of M, and they do a lot of the administrative work. Just a word of caution, that program does tend to be okay for students who only need 1 to 2 classes at most, and more like 1. And then Pompeu Fabra, same thing, 1 to 2 classes is probably the most you stand to bring back for that. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't make a slide for this, but for CogSci students, we do have a Weinberg Study Abroad Award. It was previously only for flight reimbursement. It is now just a Study Abroad Award. We do have to check that every applicant, but if you apply, we're gonna check with financial aid to make sure that giving you the scholarship has no negative impact on your financial aid. But if you are awarded, a specific amount, we're not just going to reimburse you up to, the cost of your flight. If you get $1,000, we award you $1,000, and you can use this towards, groceries or rent or whatever you'd like to use. We just need to see proof of admittance to a study abroad program, as well as a purchased flight, just to know that, just so we know that you actually went, because sometimes people sign up for a program and then they drop out. So we want to make sure you actually got on the plane and went to the destination in mind. And then if you're sitting here and you're like, gee, Sarah, this all sounds really good, but I don't know how I'm going to fit this in, especially as a third year. I don't know I don't know if I'm going to have time to do international opportunities as part of my undergraduate studies, or I'd like to really go in the summer, but I really need an internship to stand out to employers. I wanted to highlight that there's tons of international opportunities, and doing an academic program abroad is not the only thing available to you. In terms of global internships, we'll bring up, I'll save that, I'll talk about the post-graduation options. There are tons and tons and tons of English teaching assistantship programs, as well as research programs or other scholarships. So a few that I like to highlight is that we have a Fulbright office. The Fulbright student program, these are fully sponsored, fully paid by the US government awards that send you to teach English in another country for a year. You often receive training, or you're just apprenticing. So if you're thinking about getting a teaching degree, it's a kind of like a really good introduction to teaching. Or if you're planning to do TESOL, a lot of our linguistic students like to do TESOL. It's a really great introduction. So if you're a junior, right now is actually the perfect time to be thinking about those. I am an alum, so if you want to talk to me about what it was like to teach English in Germany for a year, you can come find me afterwards. But there's tons of other country-specific programs. I can tell you how to hack it so you can end up doing like 2 or 3 applications instead of just 1. Also, if you want to consider doing a master's or a PhD program abroad, especially masters, they're cheaper in many other countries. Don't get student debt doing a master's degree. It's like not good. Like you probably have some debt from undergrad. It's way cheaper to do a master's degree in another country. Even their international student fees tend to be less. So that's another thing to think about. And the Peace Corps also has lots of opportunities for international development work, and they're actually having a Choose Your Own Service Adventure event to talk to you more about postgraduate international opportunities this week, February 16th. So I put the information there. But also, if you're thinking about international internships, you might want to check out the Office of National Scholarships and Fellowships. I think they oversee the Obama-Chesky Scholarship Administration. But now I'm going to bring up Matt Meltzer from SageCore to talk to you a little bit more about a brand new partnership here at U of M, or a recent partnership. And he's actually here today also at the internship fair. So if you're heading over to the Opportunity Hub later, you can also talk to him there. But welcome, Matt. Come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Meltzer. I am the CEO of SageCore, and we specifically run international internship programs where you can go work with entrepreneurs at startups worldwide. We've been doing this since 2013 as an alternative to sort of the traditional study abroad experience, and we typically run programs in the summer. With that said, we create cohorts of students from all over the country. So you'll be with plenty of Michigan students, but then on top of that with students from many other universities. It's structured like a study abroad experience, but instead of going to class on a daily basis, you actually go to a startup innovation hub in the chosen city. And we have cities across Europe and Australia. I can run through a list if that's of interest, but essentially the idea is you tell us what you're interested in doing, whether it's working with data analytics or perhaps marketing or business development, any industry, right? We're industry agnostic, as we say. And then we will put you through a 2-part program if you're accepted, right? So it's a selective program in that we can't work with everybody. If you said, hey, I want to go work at a hospital or a research lab, for example, we don't do that. All of our placements are with entrepreneurs who are trying to build either a company or in some cases a nonprofit or social enterprise centered around some sort of problem, right, that they're trying to build a solution for. So you will get real world experience working alongside local entrepreneurs, but you'll have the support of a community of other students with you alongside our staff. The first thing you'll do when you come into the program is be assigned a program manager from SageCore, and you're going to go through a series of online curricular modules. And the idea is we know what all of these startup companies, in terms of the skills that they want to see for people that are going to do an internship. Some of the skills you may have touched on in some of your classes, a lot of them, truthfully, you haven't seen. So whether it's learning new software platforms or other tools that we know a data analyst uses, right, every day, or someone who's interested in digital marketing or sales or business development, right? There's certain tools that these people use every day, right? And as a student academically, you typically wouldn't see that in your courses. And this will help you not just in this program, but just more generally, right, from a career development perspective. So we'll put you through those online modules. We'll work with you on updating, reviewing, and revising your resume. You'll then actually interview with the CEO of these companies, right? So if you apply, for example, to Barcelona or Amsterdam or Sydney, Australia, you'll then, once you work with our program manager this spring, be connected with a CEO of a company, and you'll do a real interview for that internship role. We'll, of course, prepare you in advance. But then ultimately, you need to get the offer from the CEO of the company to join their team for the summer. We always have more startups than students, and plenty of times it happens that it doesn't work out with the first company. That's no problem. We'll look at other companies that we think could be a good fit for you, right? Once you then have your company, we'll help prepare you for the internship. So part of it is the online curriculum, but then understanding, okay, what are the specific projects and tools that you'll be using to complete those projects will help you get up to speed. Usually that'll happen May, going in mostly May once you guys are done with finals, and then you would go abroad from early June for 8 weeks, right? So it's all over the summer. You'll be back in time I don't know if any of you play sports or have other activities, but certainly in time then in August for the start of the fall semester. The program will also take you to different events in the city. So you'll live like a local. You'll have apartments. Most of them you'll have single studio apartments. Sydney, that'll be you'll have a roommate. But the idea is to immerse you in the city like a young professional, right? So you can see what is it like to live and work in Berlin or Barcelona or Paris or Sydney, Australia. And for you all, especially, I saw there was a show of hands who are freshmen, sophomores. It sounds like we take any major, we take any year in school. So even if you haven't had any professional experience, that first job is always probably the hardest to get, right? Because you need someone to sort of take a chance based on your academic studies, your extracurriculars. This is a program in particular for Michigan students that works really well for freshmen and sophomores who then leverage this to go get that big, junior year internship, right? So it's something that you can consider doing. And then even alongside other study abroad programs, if you decide junior year, is that typically when they would go abroad for the semester, junior year?
There's no time you have to go abroad, but most people go abroad second semester of their junior year.
Okay, fair enough. So if you talk to friends and, ad hoc, that's when you end up going. This can be, you can do it before. We do have plenty of upperclassmen, though, who want global experience. The last thing I'll say, and I'm happy to answer questions, but the last thing I'll say is all of you in the job market, right, should be thinking about how can I distinguish myself to prospective employers, whether that means after this you're going to go work and continue doing at a research institution in a lab, or if you want to go into the private sector, work at a company, maybe you want to go work with the government at a think tank. It doesn't matter what your path is. You need to be thinking now about how can I differentiate myself, right, in terms of my narrative and my path. Getting global experience, whether you do this program with us or any of the other programs listed, is one of the best ways to stand out. Why? Because nobody does it statistically, right? So each year there's a nonprofit that puts out this data, and we know it's about 3.5% of all college students before they enter the workforce go abroad in any capacity. Of those, about 0.1% get global work experience. So if you're looking for ways to really get unique experience that, if nothing else, from a career development perspective, will give you an edge, this is one way to do it. And in the process, you get to go see a new country, new city, get that cultural exploration, which is fantastic, of course, and meet a new group of people. But certainly, without question, the career development component is one of the most attractive reasons to go abroad in any capacity, right? So I'll leave you with one other data point on this. So for all college graduates, 43% are unemployed or underemployed after 12 months. And that's every school in the country. Michigan obviously blows that number out of the water just by this school alone, right? But if you look at all colleges across the country, that's the number, right? Students in our program, the graduates of our program, 86% have full-time jobs within 3 months of graduation. And if you go get this statistic from CGIS, I guarantee you alumni of CGIS, right, their job placement is much higher than the national average, because global experience really does matter. And companies, employers, whether it's the government or if you want to go after college, apply to the Peace Corps, like having had some global experience before you go apply for those things, it'll really help you stand out. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about our program, about going abroad more generally. I studied abroad, I lived abroad, I've traveled abroad. I'm a huge advocate for it, even beyond what I now dedicate my life's work to with SageCore. So with that, does anyone have questions? Happy to talk about the program. Yeah.
Any questions for any of us, but especially for Matt, because he has some time. So if anyone has a question, I have a cube that is also a microphone.
Oh, I forgot one other thing I wanted to quickly mention. So with our program, and I'm sure some of the others, the LSA Opportunity Hub offers funding, grant funding, to cover the cost. So if the financial piece is an obstacle, we can help you, but if you just go to their office and put in your application, they can help you with that. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. We will be at the LSA Internship Fair. We'll have a table there if you guys come by, say hi, introduce yourselves. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, here, I'll put the cube down. Thank you all so much for coming. Here is our contact information. I'm sure Matt has business cards as well with him. Sorry, Matt, I forgot to include your email. Or you can stop by the Opportunity Hub. We'll hang out for a little bit till about like 4:15. Matt has to leave a little earlier, but I'll be around. So if you have specific questions for me that you didn't feel comfortable asking in the round, just feel free to approach either of us. But thank you so much for coming. Please grab as many snacks as you would like for the road, especially fruits and vegetables, and have a great rest of your day.